I thought fixing my driveway would be simple, just a quick job to smooth out the cracks. But that one decision turned into a total disaster. Within hours, my street was swarming with fire trucks. People were running out of their houses with their kids and pets, and the whole block was told to evacuate. And at the center of it all? Karen. Not just a nosy neighbor, not just someone with too much time on her hands. No. HOA Karen, the kind of person who thinks a clipboard makes her the law. She believed she had the right to control everything, even my property. I didn't know when I started the job that her need for control would end up putting the entire neighborhood in danger. But once the jackhammer hit the gas line, it was too late to stop the mess she had created. I live in one of those neighborhoods where everything looks picture perfect. The grass is always cut, the mailboxes all match, and kids ride bikes up and down the street without a worry. It's quiet, safe, and pretty normal, at least on the outside. We've got a homeowners association, the HOA, that's supposed to help keep things organized. In theory, they handle stuff like community rules and maintenance, but in reality, it feels more like a group of people who enjoy bossing others around. And leading that group? Karen. She lived right across from me. Her lawn looked like it came out of a magazine, every blade of grass the same height. She wore sunglasses even when the sun wasn't out, and carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. You'd see her slowly walking the street, scanning for anything out of place. A slightly crooked curtain? She'd report it. A trash bin left out for 5 extra minutes? You'd get a warning letter. If a rule existed, or if she just made one up, Karen would be the first to tell you that you were breaking it. My driveway had been looking rough for a while. Cracks running through it, chunks missing, and just generally worn down from years of weather and use. It wasn't something I wanted to deal with, but it was getting to the point where it looked bad and was probably becoming unsafe. So I decided to get it resurfaced. Not replaced, just resurfaced. A simple fix to clean it up. I made sure to do everything by the book. I checked the HOA handbook, double-checked the rules, even got the proper permits from the city. Everything was good to go. I hired a local contractor who could knock it out in a day or two. The morning the work started, I was feeling good. The crew had just pulled up and were unloading their equipment when, sure enough, Karen came marching across the street. Not walking, marching. She stopped right at the edge of my yard, arms crossed, sunglasses on, and said, "Excuse me, this is not HOA approved." Loud enough for half the block to hear. I tried to stay calm. I told her I had the permits, showed her the documents, explained that it was just resurfacing, not a full redo. But she didn't care. "Driveways must match the original aesthetic of the neighborhood," she snapped. I knew that wasn't a real rule, but trying to reason with Karen was like talking to a wall. The day after Karen's outburst, I figured that was the end of it. I thought maybe she just needed to feel heard and would move on. But the next morning, I found something taped to my front door, right in the middle, like she wanted to make sure I couldn't miss it. It wasn't in an envelope or anything, just a single sheet of paper, slapped on with what looked like packing tape. At first I thought it might be an actual letter from the HOA, but the more I looked at it, the more ridiculous it got. It was full of bold letters and dramatic language, words like violation, penalty, and community standards. But there was no HOA logo, no board member names, no signature. It was just Karen playing pretend. She had written that my driveway was in violation of neighborhood appearance guidelines and needed to be removed immediately. Mind you, those guidelines don't even exist. Not the way she described them. She was completely making it up. I stood there reading it, kind of stunned, kind of amused. It was so over the top, it almost felt like a prank. But I knew she was serious. I decided not to respond. I didn't want to fuel the fire. The work on the driveway continued as planned, and I hoped that would be the end of her nonsense. I couldn't have been more wrong. A few days later, just when I thought things had finally quieted down, I woke up to this awful grinding sound, like metal being chewed by a giant machine. It was loud enough to shake the windows. I jumped out of bed and ran outside, still in my pajamas, thinking maybe the contractor had come back for some reason. But when I got to the driveway, my stomach dropped. There was a man I had never seen before, wearing a reflective vest, holding a jackhammer that was tearing into the fresh concrete I had just paid to have resurfaced. Right behind him, standing with her usual smug expression and arms folded, was Karen. She looked proud of herself, like she was watching a parade in her honor. "You were warned," she said loudly over the noise. "This is an official HOA correction." I was speechless. The guy operating the jackhammer looked up, confused, and asked, "Wait, are you the homeowner?" I nodded, completely stunned. "She said she was your representative," he mumbled, pointing at Karen. "She's not," I said. My voice was shaking. "Stop. Stop everything." He killed the machine, clearly nervous. I told Karen to get off my property, but she just stood there, saying I was interfering with official action. I grabbed my phone and started calling the police, and then I smelled it, that sharp chemical scent. A hiss followed. The worker stepped back quickly, eyes wide. "That's gas," he said. Everything suddenly felt heavy, dangerous. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. It didn't take long for things to spiral out of control. Within minutes of the gas leak, police cars pulled up, followed by fire trucks, sirens screaming as they blocked off the street. Firefighters jumped out and started shouting instructions. They told everyone to leave their homes immediately. Some neighbors came out holding their kids. Others grabbed pets or bags with whatever they could throw together. People were scared and confused, looking around like they couldn't believe this was really happening. And right in the middle of it all was Karen, still standing there like she hadn't just caused a major emergency. When the fire chief asked who authorized the digging, the guy with the jackhammer pointed straight at Karen. She tried to act calm, said she was acting on behalf of the HOA. But when they asked for proof, emails, paperwork, anything, she had nothing. Just words and that same smug look. That's when the police stepped in. They told her to leave the property, and when she didn't move, they escorted her away. Watching her being led off while the street was lit up with red and blue lights didn't feel like a victory. It felt surreal. My driveway was destroyed, my neighborhood was in chaos, and all I could think was how fast one person's actions had turned everything upside down. A few days after the gas leak, the HOA sent out a notice for an emergency meeting. Everyone in the neighborhood was invited. I didn't want to go at first. Honestly, I was still shaken and just wanted things to go back to normal. But I knew I had to show up and speak for myself. When I walked into the meeting room, Karen was already there, sitting at the head of the table like nothing had happened. She stood up and started talking first, saying she had only been trying to protect the neighborhood, that she thought my driveway was a risk to our home values. She acted like she was the one who had been wronged. Then it was my turn. I stood up, my hands shaking a little, and told the whole story. I explained how I had gotten all the right permits, how I had followed the rules and tried to avoid conflict. I showed the documents I had, everything in order. A few people looked surprised. Some were quiet. I could feel the room shift, slowly. At first, a few neighbors still seemed unsure, like they didn't know who to believe. But as more details came out, the mood changed. People started realizing just how far Karen had gone without permission. It wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control. And now everyone could see that. Not long after the meeting, a city inspector showed up at my house to go over everything that had happened. He was calm but serious, taking photos and asking clear, direct questions. When I explained that Karen had ordered the digging without any permits or approval, he nodded slowly, jotting things down. "That's a serious violation," he said. "She had no right to authorize any of this." He told me the city would be pressing charges and that there could be fines involved, big ones. The HOA also sent out another notice soon after. This time it was official. They confirmed that Karen had acted completely on her own. No votes, no approvals, no communication. She wasn't just overstepping. She had broken the rules in a way that put lives at risk. The board said they were starting legal action against her. After that, Karen vanished. No walks with her clipboard, no bold letters taped to doors, no meetings, no complaints. It was like she'd vanished into thin air. I didn't know if she was hiding or just trying to lay low, but either way the silence felt strange. Things weren't fixed yet, but at least it felt like justice was finally starting to catch up to her. Just when things started feeling a little normal again, Karen came back. Not with more fake letters or clipboard patrols, but with emails. Long, dramatic ones. She sent them to the HOA board, to neighbors, even to me. In them, she said she was sorry. Said she didn't mean for things to get so out of hand, that she just wanted to protect the community. Then, one afternoon, she showed up at my gate. I was in the yard, trying to clean up what was left of the driveway. She gave me a soft smile and asked if we could talk. I didn't slam the door in her face, though I wanted to. I just stood there and listened. She told me again how sorry she was, how she didn't realize the damage she had caused, how she never wanted to hurt anyone. I believed that maybe she did feel regret, but it didn't really change anything. The gas leak, the chaos, the fear on people's faces, none of that could be undone with an apology. I told her I appreciated her words, but some things can't be fixed just by saying sorry. She left quietly after that, but I could still feel her presence hanging in the air, like a shadow that wouldn't fully go away. It took weeks, but eventually the repairs were done. The gas line was fixed first, then the water pipes, and finally, the mess in my driveway. Contractors came and went, big trucks blocked the road almost daily, but little by little, things started to look normal again. Neighbors began chatting outside like they used to. Kids played in the yard without their parents worrying. That heavy feeling in the air started to lift. The HOA sent out a final update. Karen was officially removed from her position. She was hit with fines and was still facing legal trouble for what she did. No one celebrated out loud, but you could feel the relief. Like the whole neighborhood had been holding its breath and could finally let it out. As for me, I just kept thinking about how all of this started with a cracked driveway. Something small. And how one person, so sure they were right, managed to create a disaster. The lesson hit hard. Some people think the rules don't apply to them. They think they're in charge, no matter what. But there's always a cost when you cross the line, and this time everyone had to pay for it.